Jai Gaura Share
Jai Gaura Madhu Share
Jai Gaura Madhu Share
Jai Gaura Madhu Share
Jai Gaura Madhu Share Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Hari Bifale Janama Guainu
Hari Hari
Bifale Hari Hari Bifale Janama Guainu Hari Manusya Janama Hoya Radha Krishna Gajiyo Hoya Radha Krishna Gajiyo Radha
See if we have any questions this evening. Yes.
I have a question that might require some giving.
To turn into a question?
That I could turn into a question. You described the Jiva Shakti as a substratum. And so there's several questions that arise by conceptualizing the idea that the Jiva hasn't fallen from the spiritual sky and does not have an inherent Swarup. And the questions go something like this. If the Jiva Shakti is a substratum, is it a substratum of Satchidananda or Swarup Shakti? That would be the first thing. Then, is the Jiva Shakti like a person or a spark of energy that in relationship with one that either Swarup Shakti or Maya Shakti therefore takes on personality, but if there wasn't a point in time, which never is, wasn't a point in time that they weren't in association with one, it wouldn't be personhood. And therefore, what we're actually doing is we have a material personality in Maya Shakti, and we're developing a brand new personality in association with Swarup Shakti. So if the case is that the Jiva Shakti is like a spark, that would seem to indicate or support why a unit of the Jiva Shakti could merge into Brahman and give up personality. And that's one point. And then if it can, so therefore it can give up, it can walk from personality and go to Brahman. Now is Brahman Tatashta, some kind of a Tatashta in between Shakti? And is the Brahman only made of jivas or other parts of the energy? And let me see if there's more of this thinking that was going on about conceptualizing. If someone said, oh, you know, Tripurari Swami, the way he's taking it is to impersonalism. And I almost could see why they were saying that, but I didn't think that they had gone far enough in their thinking about it. And I wanted to dialogue with them. I think that might be a good portion, at least, of that.
Okay, good. Incidentally, I've addressed this to some extent in the last chapter of my book, where the book deals with the Panchatattva, of course, because that's the subject of the Mangacharan verses dedicated to the different principles that are represented by the five-fold personhood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Guru, Guru Shivas, and Vedanta. So when it comes to Shivas, then you come to the Tatasta Shakti. And then you come to another Shakti Tattva, which is Bhakti, or the Swarup Shakti. Bhakti is the essence of the Swarup Shakti. So it constitutes different kind of combinations of Vladini and Samvit. So kind of Samvit means a kind of knowing that I am the friend of Krishna, knowing that I am involved in the romantic life of Krishna. That has a corresponding Vladini, ecstasy. Would be different, some similarities and so forth. So that's a big topic that's also covered in the book. Shakti Tattva, both the devotee, and if we take the Shakti Tattva, in the person of Shiva, especially the liberated devotee. So we have to talk about the non-liberated status of the Jiva Shakti as well. So anyway, some things are covered there. But yes, it's an important topic to be sure. And we touched on many things. See if I can remember them all and address them. When I say that the Jiva is the substratum of personhood, something like that, for example. I'll give you another way of thinking about it. The jiva is a unit of knowledge. Sat, Chit, and Ananda, Anu is atomic. In one sense, these are immeasurables, but nonetheless, they are repeatedly talked about quantitatively. For example, bhakti, constituted of Samdini, Samvit, and Ladini, which could be translated Satchitananda, but they speak about special Samdini, special Chit, Samvit, a special love, Ladini, if you will. But they're talked about it, rather, it's talked about it quantitatively. For example, Goswami says the bliss of bhakti, prem bhakti, is, or the bliss of Brahman, multiplied by a trillion-fold, doesn't compare to a tiny atomic particle of the bliss of prem. So these are quantitative measurements, and you can't really do that in one sense, but that's the way it's talked about. Jiva, Shakti, may be such an atomic, and one of the problems with that, of course, is that because it's small, it has the capacity to be overwhelmed by Maya. Swarup Shakti capacity can dispel Maya. More than that, can overwhelm Krishna. We can't overwhelm Krishna in terms of our constitution as a jiva, but the Swarup Shakti can. And the Swarup Shakti personified as Nanda, Yashoda, Lalita, Vishaka, Sridham, Sridham, Bhaktak, and so forth. They do so in the context of Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, very dramatic figures that embody these bhavas that are not Jiva Shakti. They're Swarup Shakti. Can that be overwhelmed by Maya? And it can overwhelm Krishna. So we can't dispel Maya practically by ourselves without the help of some bhakti, or to speak of overwhelming Krishna. Right? So, anyway, that's what we mean by the substratum. So the jiva is Satchitananda Anu. Anu means like atomic, so small. When we say that the jiva is, for example, a unit of chit, of knowledge, what do we mean? We don't mean that if you go inside the jiva, you can find all knowledge there. You can find out how to build an airplane, you can find out anything there is. It's got all knowledge. Sometimes the term is used that they're full of knowledge. You're full of knowledge. But what does it mean? It doesn't mean that all knowledge. Knowledge is something. And the problems with language, but knowledge is acquired. So the jiva can acquire certain knowledge in material life in conjunction with its material subtle body. It's acquired knowledge, but the only reason that it can acquire knowledge is because it is the substratum of all knowing. In other words, there has to be a knowing entity that has the capacity to know in order for there to be any knowing at all. So the jiva is the substratum of knowledge. It doesn't have all kinds of knowledge inside of it, of everything and whatnot, but it can acquire it. So what's more important then? Knowledge that can be acquired or the substratum? Substratum is more important. Without that, there's no way to acquire any knowledge. Nothing to be known is knowledge. So we say the jiva is knowledge, but as a substratum of it. Similarly, sat it's eternally, it's real. It exists. It's not here today and gone tomorrow. It's not subject to transformation. Transformations refer to the transformations, for example, birth, death, disease, old age, the transformations of the experience in the mind, emotional, subtle emotions, and so forth, in relation to the material energy. Or the mind is constituted of material energy. So the jiva is not subject to any of that. But none of that can go on without the jiva. Really. It aparayam nutasthanam prakatividimeparam jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedam darite shayat. It's animating the world. It's animating principle, if you will. So it's thought, it's chit, it has the capacity to love, ananda, potential to love, such an ananda. That's what it is. Now, that's not saying that it's a person. Then again, the scripture does refer to it as a Purusha, right? The jiva is interesting because the jiva is described as a Purusha and as Prakriti. Prakriti means nature here, material nature, or Prakriti of the spirit, of the spiritual nature, Chit Shakti. So it's described as a Shakti, but it's also described as a Purusha. Purusha is really the position of Bhagavan. He's not a Shakti, he's the Shaktiman. So in relation to matter, we're kind of like a Purusha. Or, from another saying, we're the Prakriti. When we look at Bhagavan, he's the Purusha, there's Prakriti, and we're the Prakriti. And relation, just directly between the relationship between the Purusha and the Prakriti, the Jiva and the Prakriti, is like a relationship between Purusha and Prakriti. Enjoyer, Purusha, and that which is enjoyed. So someone may say, well, the scriptures say that we're personal Purusha. But again, that is speaking about what we are. We are the essential ingredient of personhood, without which, no matter how much variety you have, there's no one to choose it and to embody it, if you will, get embodied by it. So, what I'm saying is, in order for there to be a person, there needs to be, that's different from another person, there have to be differences in the environment that we choose from. That you like it hot, I like it cold. You like red, I like yellow. So these are what differentiates us from one another. That's environmental, just like we say sometimes in psychology. There's nature and then there's nurture. So we have, the jiva is of a nature that lends itself to nurture, so it has certain potentialities that in contact with the environment will have a certain result. So in contact with material nature, obviously we have a material personality, likes, dislikes, so on and so forth. And that whole personality is all a product of our being associated with material nature. That whole personality. So if you were to take away that whole personality, what would you have left? If you had a person in there, right? A person there. If you were to take away the false personality of material identity, American, Indian, man, woman, and so forth, and what you had left was a person. You had one Atma, Jivatma, another Jivatma, and a third Jivatma, and they were each different because they each had individual personal differences. Means what? Likes, dislikes, right, and so forth, then if that was the case, then you would have some jivas like peanut butter, some jivas like jelly, some jivas like peanut butter and jelly. You have chocolate jivas, you have vanilla jivas, you have strawberry jivas. Obviously, peanut butter, jelly, strawberries, is all the material environment. It causes us to like one or the other, or all of them combined. So, furthermore, if each of the jivas, all of which the jivatmas of our type, come from the Paramatma, right? The Bhagavan Narayan lives in Vaikuntha. He's the object of love there. He's tasting all types of love. Well, certainly, he's tasting dasya, shanta, rasa, but he's the object of love. He's not tasting sakya, that's all in the that's Krishna. But Narayan in Vaikuntha, he's tasting bhakti as the object of bhakti. And Krishna's Kaviraj explains he has a desire. Despite that, desire arises in him to bestow the liberated status mukti upon someone. But he can't bestow it on anybody in Vaikuntha, they've already got it. So another world is necessary for Narayan to be compassionate, which he is, because he is a taster of love, and compassion is one of the types of love. So when we're talking about it in time and language limitations, there's no beginning to this, but with the desire of Narayan to taste compassion, there needs to be a corresponding world where compassion has its application. For him to be the savior, there have to be people that are saved, need to be saved. So there's a form of Narayan, just like we start with Krishna, then there's Balaram, then there's Krishna and Balaram as Mool Sankarshan and Vasudeva Krishna. Then they expand into Vaikuntha, and then they expand as Pradyumna Nadiruda. So you have Sankarshan, Vasudeva, Pradyumna Nadiruda. And then they expand again into Vaikuntha in a more Aishvarya environment. Sankarshan, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna Nadiruda. Then three of those expand as the Mahavishnu. Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, the Purushas. And through the Purusha, then, and the world that the Purusha governs, the Purusha has jurisdiction over the realm of Maya where people need to be saved, and there are people there. And so those jivas, the Bada Jiva, the conditioned jivas, they correspond with Mahavishnu, who's the form of Narayan to bestow compassion. And so, how is he characterized, Vishnu? In comparison to Krishna and Narayan, who are impartial. Krishna is even more impartial than Narayan, partial to devotees, and so forth. Mahavishnu, the Paramatma, and the three forms of the Paramatma, the three Vishnu, the Purushas, they are equal. They are the witnesses. So, it can be characterized by impartiality, comparatively. In Gita, Krishna says, what does he say there? He says, I'm not partial to anyone, but I'm partial to my devotees. So first half of the verse, Paramatma speaking, the second half of the verse, Bhagavan speaking. Something like that. So the Paramatma is impartial. So saying this to emphasize the point that all the jivas that come from Mahavishnu are equal. They're all equal. They're not, in our Siddhanta, the jivas are not distinguished from one another, other than that each one is an individual unit of the same thing. So if you have the unit of Satchidananda, and you have another unit of Satchidananda, and the third unit of Satchidananda, they're all individual units of Satchidananda, but they're all constituted the same thing. So if you have one atom, another atom, they're all the same, they're all atoms, but they're all different atoms. Not different from one another, but they're what would be the word? Uniform. They're uniform in their constitution, but each one is individual.
They're separate.
Right. They're limited. So, if we're each different, inherently different from one another, then you would have a situation in which they were not all equal. Then the impartiality of the Godhead would come into question. Wait a minute here. He made one faster, one slower, one more intelligent, one less intelligent. It's not fair. When the sutras of Vedanta, the Brahma Sutras, bring up the question about the impartiality of God, they say, look, some people are born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and some people are born, in the Appalachian Mountains. And so God's unfair. Then the response is, in the sutras, no, that difference is not doing, that's the doing of karma. Which means the jivas are creating their own differences, disadvantages or advantages. Then the sutra replies, well, that's fine, but what about at the beginning when it all started? Some must have started out in one way, some must have started out another way. And then sutras say, no, there is no beginning. Next question. There is no beginning to karma. Which is not that hard to understand because there's no beginning to God, to Mahavishnu. The world is compared to its exhalation when it expands, and then inhalation when it contracts. There's no beginning to Mahavishnu because there's no beginning to his breathing either. So these cycles of worlds, expanding and contracting, have no beginning, and this is just common. That's Hinduism, period. It doesn't matter whether you're this, that, or other thing. Vaishnava, Shaivite, Advaita Vedanta, this Vedanta, yoga, any whatever. If you're Hindu, the world has no beginning. It begins and ends, and there's no beginning to the beginning and the ending. So, also, of course, what is the world? The world is the combination of the jivas and Maya, matter and the units of consciousness. That's what it is, right? The two of them. That is it. And what connects them? What's the binding force? The glue that causes them to stick together is karma. So you can't have a material world without karma. The material world is the world governed by karma. You can't have a material world without karma. If there's no karma, well, then there's no material world. So if the material worlds have no beginning, then karma can. This is what the sutras say. For good reason. So you have all these jivas. They're all equal. But they're equal units of free will also. Within larger scope of Bhagavan's will, we say nothing moves without the will of God, means that the jiva has a will. That means libertarian free will of sorts, and then there's determinism. So we take a compatibilist position between free will and determinism. Determinism means if the farmer tills the field, plants the seed, that's the jiva exercising its will. if God doesn't bring down rain, there's no crops. So within the context of God's or sanction, we have will. So we exercise our will, and if He agrees with it, then it happens. If not, something like that. So
does the will start after its association with one of the energies, not in
it's
its
quality of the jiva.
It's an actual quality.
Yeah. Will means also that it's an agent of action, to use like philosophical terms. It's a doer. It causes things to happen. It has agency, is a philosophical way of speaking. It has agency. If it doesn't have agency, there's no meaning to moral life. If it has no agency, there's no meaning to Scripture saying, do this and don't do that. Because you have no choice. If you don't have agency, you don't have will, there's no capacity to choose. So it does have agency. It is a doer. It's not the only doer. There are other factors behind every action, as the Gita explains. But the will of the jiva is action that we perform. So you have these units of jivatmas, and if you have two of them, and they're both units of will, among other things, there's Satchidananda, there are other things too. This is one of the things, they have will. In one sense, Ananda speaks of will, Kriya. But anyway, they're units of will. Now, if you have will, and I have will, and someone else gives us two things to choose from, right? There's nothing that mandates that you and I will choose the same thing, because will is free. It means it's unpredictable. It's free. So there are differences. We choose differently because we're units of will. It's just the nature of it. And so we have differences, and that's called karma, those differences. They're superficial. They distinguish us from one another, and some suffer and some suffer less. And so a good part of our suffering is our will, how we exercise it. So that exercise of will is part of what creates our material personality. If we were to take away that material personality, deconstruct it entirely, and clear it off the jiva, Bodhidharma is a unit of will, Satchidananda has the capacity to experience. It's the basis of experience. It has the capacity to apprehend things, to know things. It has the capacity to act, to do, to love. It has all these things. Though that speaks about, this is Gaudiya's about, a very, very robust sense of Atma. There is no tradition of Vedanta that I'm familiar with, or of experiential spiritual pursuit, yoga path, Sankhya. These are all paths for spiritual life within the larger circle of Hinduism. There's no such path that has a more robust sense of self than what I'm talking about. For example, Yoga Siddhanta of the Yoga Sutras posits a self that has no agency and has no capacity to experience red, blue, green qualitative experience. It's just a witness. That's all. Still witness. That's all it is. But Aspen is way more full of and robust sense of self. Let's go to the Advaita Vedanta, the famous impersonalist group, right? What is the makeup of the jiva in the school of impersonalism? It doesn't exist. It's a fantasy. There is no jiva. We're not teaching that. We're not teaching impersonalism, which teaches that the jiva is an illusion.
Well, what is it that exists that's that doesn't even make sense? It
That's
doesn't
right,
exist.
impersonalism doesn't make sense.
Well, in impersonalism or the Advaita Vedanta, Gaudiya Vaishnavism referred to as Mayavad, there is only Brahman. There is only Brahman. That's all there is. There's only Brahman. Now, if you want to know about Brahman, go there for a minute. Brahman is not a Shakti. So, that's not correct. Brahman is an aspect of Bhagwan who has three aspects. The Bhagwan is Paramatma and Brahman, which are subjective experiences of the one Advaigyan, non-dual tattva, non-dual reality. Derived, those subjective experiences, by very different approaches. By the approach of bhakti, by the experience, by the approach of yoga, the Paramatma experience, by the approach of Gyan, the Brahman experience. So, the Brahman is each of these obviously are manifestations of Satchidananda, Bhagavan, Paramatma, and Brahman. But the way in which the Satchidananda is organized within them is different. So in Brahman, the Sat takes prominence. Like I said, so therefore, in Brahman, one loves to exist and knows that I exist. And that's all.
So does
That's, yeah, you're resting. You merge with Brahman and Sayuja Mukti is resting. It's compared, therefore, to, you feel tired, you want to take a deep rest, sometimes you want to take a deep sleep, and you take a really deep sleep, and then someone wants to wake you up and just want to go back to sleep. That's what it's like. It's a contentless experience. It makes no sense, but there is such a thing as Brahman Sayuja Mukti. Now, it's important to note that what we teach about Sayuja Mukti is not what Advaita Vedanta teaches about. So there can be there are jivas who engage in bhakti mixed with jnana, whose goal is to attain Sayuja Mukti. And so, by the grace of bhakti, they merge with Brahman. Now, when they merge with Brahman, they don't become Brahman. They are a unit of Tatastha Shakti. But the sense of their individuality is blurred by their identification with Brahman. So it's like there's nobody there. It's just like restful, just like deep sleep. It's just like going under anesthesia. I mean, it's not. Therefore, Gaudiya Vaishnavas look even at that. Let's speak of the Advaita Vedanta idea as being undesirable, being like a spiritual suicide. There's no potential for you to be a bhakta, be a person in the spiritual world, an eternal person. We have to get to that. In Sayuja Mukti. And the Advaita Vedanta, the idea of Advaita Vedanta, we always say it doesn't even exist. Because there is a jiva. There is Tatastha Shakti. Advaita Vedanta says the world is vivarta. It's an illusion. Vivartavad. There is no world. We say, no, there is a world. And it's Shakti, it's Parinamvad. Sounds like Samkhya, but it's Shakti Parinamvad. It means Bhagavan has Shaktis, and they, Parinam means that they transform. God doesn't transform, but the Shaktis interact in such a way that there's a world. Advaita Vedanta says there is no world, there's no matter, there's no jiva, there's only Brahman. There's no Bhagwan, there's only Brahman. It's kind of spiritual monism. Materialistic people are monistic in terms of using materialism as a philosophical term, not just a consumer, but a materialist philosophically. They are monists. They say there's only matter. There's only physical forces. So on the opposite side, the way Vedanta say, no, there's only Brahman. There's no matter. And so the whole world is an appearance. So we don't agree with that. We're not impersonalists. To say there's a real, not what you think it is. That's the illusion. And the idea of the Vedic Vedanta that the jiva is one with Brahman is just not true. This is not an accurate representation of the scriptures. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, for example, says, when speaking about Advaita Vedanta, that Advaita Vedanta is Vyas Brahmta. Shankar is saying Vyas Brahmta. This is how he depicts Advaita Vedanta. Shankar is saying Vyas doesn't know what he's talking about. So give me the mic, I'm going to tell you. Crazy. Vyas is crazy. This is how Krishna was, how much like a little antagonistic towards the Maya philosophy. It's like saying Vyas didn't know what he was talking about, so you're going to tell us what he's talking about. Like this 2 tiers of Brahman and this whole thing. There's Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman, and the Saguna Brahman disappears, and you only have Nirguna Brahman, and there's the so forth and so on. It's just all in the sutras. I think it comes in the first chapter, 17th or 18th sutra. I wrote about it in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in my commentary, exactly where Shankar comes up with this 2 tiers of Brahman and starts this whole, wait a minute, that's not what this, it's not, it's your own idea you're putting in there. So that's how we think of the ideal of Advaita Vedanta. But there is Brahma Sayuja. Because why? Why is there Brahma Sayuja? Who can say? From a scriptural point of view, why is there Sayuja? Why is there Brahma Sayuja? Because the point is, the scriptures say there are 5 kinds of mukti, and Sayuja is one of them. Now, I'll just tell you as an aside, in this commentary on the sutras, the most holy and venerable Baldev Vijibhusana describes Sayuja differently than in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says Sayuja is the basis of all forms of mukti, which constitute an identification with the Absolute. That's how he looks at it. Now, from Chaitanya Charitamrita, of course, we have decided there is the halo of God. It's outside of Vaikuntha, but it's not the material world. And some jivas choose to merge with it. And by the grace of bhakti, mixed with jnana, they can. And all their robustness of themselves that we're talking about is there, but it doesn't have the opportunity to manifest. Some aspects of itself don't have the opportunity to manifest. It's a liberated condition. You can't fall from Brahman. There's no one to fall anywhere. There is nowhere. There's only Brahman, and there's nobody else. There's nowhere to go, nowhere to. Something like that. You're asleep? Can't fall down in your sleep. So.
And that's eternal once one chooses that.
Yeah. Now, sometimes it's said by Gaudiya Acharyas that one can fall from Brahman.
Because they get bored.
And explain, there's no question of being bored if you're in deep sleep, right? Deep sleep means the example is a good example, because in deep sleep what happens? The physical dimension of yourself, when you're in the deep sleep, you're unaware of. And deep sleep means without dreams. That means the psychic dimension is also closed down. That closed down the psychic, the physical dimension of the world. You close down the whole world, but you're still existing. Mm-hmm. In a restful condition. So the idea is, well, I woke up, I feel rested. So it means, okay, then you were experiencing deep sleep, even though you didn't talk about it at the time. You can't remember something that you didn't experience. So I remembered, oh, I slept well, something like that. So, at any rate, you can't fall from there, but there is a famous statement in the Bhagavatam. It said there are those who they think they're liberated, but their intelligence is, they're offenders at the feet of bhakti, and therefore they fall down from their so-called liberated status. Now, Parampadam, they go to the Parampadam, and because they offend bhakti, they come down. But you can't, according to Gaudiya Vaishnavism and Bhagavatam, you cannot enter into Brahman. You can't become liberated without some bhakti. So, and if you look and see, for example, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, how Krishnadas uses this verse. In the Bengali, when he cites it, he uses the term Jivan Mukta. The Jivan Mukta is one thing, Videha Mukta is another thing. Jivan Mukti means, Mukta is the person, Mukti is the status. So the Jivan Mukti is the status that constitutes the penultimate for the Jnani to attaining the final ideal. The second of the last leg, rung on the ladder to ascend into transcendence, the penultimate state, called Jivan Mukti. It means that the Jnani is liberated in this body, Jivan, while living, it means, in this body, living. His or her karma is the body, obviously, and disposition, and that's parabdha karma. It's already manifest. And he or she is liberated in that they're not plugged in to the karma and creating any more karma. And that karma is just playing itself out, expending itself, and they're just watching it. This is called Jivan Mukti. In the school of Jnana. We have Jivan Mukti also in Bhakti. That's another thing, how that works. But Jivan Mukti status. And from that status, one can fall down. This is how Krishna uses it. And that, of course, makes perfect sense to us, because having gone beyond the modes of nature and entered into Brahman, and Brahma Sayuja is the form of liberation. There are no modes of nature. There's nothing no force that could cause you to fall down. And your sense of your own individuality is merged with Brahman. And Prabhupada is a real, enemy of impersonalism. So he would take any opportunity and create opportunities to attack impersonalism. So he would say something into Brahman, and then he quote this verse. But to sharpen the pencil and look at it, we see it refers to the Jivan Mukta stage. And these are Jnanis then who are, but they offend bhakti, the verse says. Because they offend bhakti, they thought they were liberated, and everybody else did too, and they were for all intents and purposes, but they offended bhakti, and therefore they come down. Vishnu Chakravarti says, I think he describes 4 types of Jnanis in his commentary on the famous Brahmabhuta Prasanatma Nasochitena Kamchi Samasaveshu Mukeshu Bhakti Bhavate. Speaks about a Jnani becoming a bhakta or having bhakti, how bhakti takes effect in the Gyan Mishra Bhakti pursuit, and one attains Brahman. Vishite Taranantam, he enters into Brahman. Two kinds of the four can enter. Two kinds can enter. If they offend bhakti, they can't. The other side is, the upside is, amongst the Gyanis, they can merge into Brahman if they so desire, or they can become a Gyani Bhakta by association, and they can go to Shantarasa. Shantarasa is like way beyond Brahma Saruja, way higher status. They're not the same. And then Dasya Bhakti. This is further along, so forth. Not the same measure, but between Brahma Saruja and Shantarasa, they can make a comparison there. Therefore, we put something that says, right? The bliss of Brahman, if you multiplied it a trillion-fold, it would not compare to a tiny atomic particle of the bliss of the prem of Shantarasa, or Dasyarasa, Sakyarasa, and so on and so forth. These are very different statuses. In one school, you use bhakti to merge. So Gyan mixed with bhakti. The other school, bhakti gets the upper hand, and one can become a Narayan Bhakta, for example, or further on, Dwarka Bhakta. When you get to Vrindavan, it's Gyan Shunya. Gyan's like not involved there. You even know that God is Krishna's God. So, extremes in person. Meanwhile, this from Brahman, your question, there's no falling down. Now, it is said that someone in Brahman could go up. How that happens, who knows? I think that for the most part, what's being talked about there is someone in the Jiva Mukta stage, like for example, Sukadeva Goswami, gets association with the devotee goes, or
The four Kumaras, or the four Kumaras.
Or Kumaras, Navyogendras, or maybe it's possible that somebody wants Sayuja Mukti and they get it. And they helped some devotee in the beginning become a devotee because they talked about bhakti, even though they talked about it in a way that wasn't Uttam Bhakti of Rupa Goswami. And then they met somebody in the school of Uttam Bhakti, and they embraced bhakti, and then they understood all these things. And then their original guru was a Brahmavadi, and so then they had created Krishna that would be taken from Brahma Saruja to make them the Krishna may do it as possible. But the point is, by the grace of the devotee, it's the only way I can think of it. You give the grace of the devotee, be a strong devotee to have such a compassionate desire for someone who's merged in Brahman. But the devotees think about it, what a loss, what a loss. So, personalism is very different from what we're talking about. And to misinterpret, for example, the teachings, when we say that you're an individual, that it means to say that there are some jivas that like chocolate, some jivas like vanilla, is a huge misunderstanding of Jiva Tattva. It's a huge problem there. We're individuals, right? That's like, little preaching. I mean, it's true, we're individuals. We know people take it the wrong way, but they get encouraged, and they get it, yes, I'm an individual, right? And I have an individual relationship with Krishna, fantastic, So, but then they get too far with it, and then they use these terms, that sounds like impersonalism and so forth. They don't understand, they say that, they don't understand Vedanta, and how robust the sense of the idea of Jiva is in Gaudiya Vedanta. That, now we get to the real conclusion here, that because the Jiva is constituted of what it's constituted, it has this personality. It is, we experience ourselves as what? Doers, agents of action, right? We make determinations, and then we carry them out with our bodies. Seems like how life works, right? We see ourselves as qualitative experiencers, and our qualitative subjective experience is unique. You see it blue, we both see it as blue, but exactly how you're seeing it, exactly how I've seen it is a little different, but we're a qualitative experiencer, we're a doer, we're apprehenders. That's how we experience ourselves. Gaudiya Vedanta says, and that's how you are. Yoga says, that's not how you are, you're just a witness. Gaudiya Vedanta says, you aren't. You aren't. You aren't an individual at all. There's only Brahman. Gaudiya Vedanta says, just as you experience yourself to be, that's what you're like. Therefore, when the inhabitants of Vrindavan ask Krishna to show us what our next life will be, show them we're going to be the same. They go, oh, great. That doesn't mean I'm getting to the substratum of what you are and how you experience yourself as a doer, as a qualitative experiencer, as an apprehender. That's how you experience yourself to be. The details of what you experience and come to know, and the things that you do, that's another thing. That's all in relation to the environment that you're confronted with. That you're making choices and so forth, that's forming your material personality and so on and so forth. But what you are inherently, the substratum, that is what you are really. So how you experience yourself, that's what you're like. We just need to put you in a different environment for that, all those potentials to be a doer, a knower, an actor, experiencer, and so forth, can be eternal. And so there's a problem here, because what we are is one thing, what matter is another thing. And the two don't mix. They don't mix. So there's this false personality, and it's temporary, and we're not temporary. So it's a problem. Now, bhakti is another environment, so it's Swarup Shakti. Under that environment, then, the difference between the Swarup Shakti and Maya Shakti, well, we already talked about it. It's Sandhini, Sambhadladini, it's Satchidananda, and more of the same, so to speak. So, in association with that, then our potential, if you have $1 and I have $100 and you join me, well, we've got $101. You just grew there quite a bit, but I can, I can share it with you. So this Swarup Shakti, these are two subjective things, Swarup Shakti and the Jiva Shakti. There's no matter there. So they don't mix. The Jiva Shakti remains the Jiva, but it's influenced now by the Swarup Shakti, and that influence is something like a young boy falls in love with a young girl. So there's the potential for a young boy to fall in love with a young girl if the young girl is presented and so forth. And so then he becomes more, he feels more whole, and so forth, because he's now realizing his potential, something like that, to love. So the Jiva has potential. It seems to be realized in the material world, but it just doesn't work. We have this speed. So Bhakti says, yeah, you have the potential and it can be realized, but you need an environment that is of the same nature, basically, as yourself. It's a consciousness nature, not a matter, one constituted of matter. And so Bhakti has an influence on the Jiva. Now you might say, well, it sounds like the Jiva transforms there. But Bhagavad Gita says that it's not substitute transformation, it's sat. No, because we say it has a nature that lends itself to nurture. Here it's being nurtured. And so what happens? The Jiva has a potential to love. So in conjunction with bhakti, in connection with bhakti and Krishna, it develops love for Krishna. When it develops love for Krishna, then the expression of that love has a shape. It's a group. I gave an example the other day. If you take an iron bar, you stick it in the fire, it will turn into fire. It will still remain an iron bar, but it's a conductor. So it will conduct the heat, and then you pull it out, it will have a fire body. It might even have a flame on it for a little while. Just an example. Stick it in the fire, pull it out. So you put the jiva in the environment of bhakti, and it starts to act like fire. It gets a flame body. The fires are already full of flames. But now, because it's in connection with a conductor, then it has a certain shape. So you have a bhava, Madhurya bhava, and Sakya bhava. Those bhavas are eternally existing. They have no beginning. They have no end. What about my particular bhava? Well, your bhava will be Madhurya bhava or Sakya bhava. They're eternally existing. But what about the individual shape of it? That is that bhava and your will. Mixed together. When you have a will, which you do, you are a will, but it's expressed in relation to Swarup Shakti, that's only and entirely working for the pleasure of Bhagavan, then in sadhana, under the influence of the bhava, the particulars of the flame body, if you will, in particular view, they will develop in conjunction with will to please Krishna, and as I said, well, each will is will. It does what it will. In relation to the environment, all for the pleasure of Krishna. Therefore, all these coward boys are not just all automatons, just nimitta bhava, sabya sabya. That's why we get it. That's Arjuna's the instrument through which Krishna is doing this and that. In Goloka, one cowherd boy likes, to sing, another boy likes to dance. One likes mangoes, one likes chickpeas. All this is a robust, full personality, and all of them are pleasing to Krishna. Every aspect of their personality is only for the pleasure of Krishna. You see, from the Abhed point of view, non-difference point of view, Bhagavan is experiencing fulfilling all his desires through so many jivas. From the Veda point of view, there are so many jivas with different desires, all for the pleasure of Krishna in the context of a particular rasa. So you have this spiritual personality that constitutes prema. And prema has a shape. Now, yes, if you go to the demigods world, you're going to get a body like the demigods. It's an interesting point because in materialism it's thought, hey, you may be consciousness, that's one thing, but that consciousness without a material body. Therefore, I might stop this part of the brain and you don't have consciousness of some things. So they think that consciousness is entirely dependent upon the body. It arises out of matter at some point. In one sense, we strongly disagree. In another sense, we agree. Yeah, in order for consciousness to express itself, it needs a body. Material body, demigod body. You can enter into earth. You can enter into fire. We have microcosmic expressions of these things in the world, and then there are fire element itself, the earth element, the ether element. So you have Gopakumar, for example, going through all of them. He's meeting people in there, ether bodies, earth bodies. In the earth element, he meets, Bhumi, worshipping Braha. And then all the pleasure that everybody in all the whole universe gets from contact with the earth element is all, like concentrated. It's a pretty earthy, happy, enjoyable place. But still he moves on. He goes to more subtle elements, of course, then he goes to Shivalok and Vakuntha. And Brahman tries to swallow it, and he avoids that. And he hears, what's that sound? And here comes a guy in the bowl. It's Shiva. Parvati is on his lap, and he's in Shiva Lok. And this is the Shiva, the Vishnu, the Sadashiva he's worshipping. Seish Sankarshan. And then the Vaikuntha Dutas come, he goes to Vaikuntha. So anyway, yeah, and when you go to Golok, then you get a spiritual body. It's given to you. It's given to you in the context of sadhana by Krishna. Unless you have to have a body, as I said, to do anything. We agree with the materialists. Yeah, you need a body. You say, well, wait a minute then. Am I not my body spiritually? Well, I'm not my material body. Are you saying I'm not my spiritual body? I'm saying that your spiritual body is constituted of Swarup Shakti and you're constituted of Jiva Shakti. And if you understand the Jiva Shakti properly, then you understand it has the capacity to adopt to either environment. The difference between the two environments, material and spiritual, is just that. Spiritual environment is spiritual, and so are you inherently. And so, yes, you're a Jiva Shakti with a Swarup Shakti body. It's not like having a Jiva Shakti having a material body. But yes, and there is a difference between you, the Jiva Shakti, in the spiritual world, and Nanda and Yashoda, who are entirely constituted of Swarup Shakti. You are following their bhakti. There's not a difference in terms of you experience fully the bhava, but you are Jiva Shakti, and that's not going to change. And the Jiva Shakti has the capacity to interact with the Swarup Shakti and function like someone constituted of Swarup Shakti. This is very important. I mean, this is the whole idea of tatastha. Tatastha. It can live on either side. Material, or it can adapt to either side. So the adaptation to either side involves a body, particulars, desires, personality. So you are an individual spiritual person in potential. And just like a baby is born and doesn't even know that I am, at a certain point starts to think, I am, right? And so Ahankar works like that, and so there's the Ahankar in Bhakti. So you start to think, I am a Gopa, I am a Gopi. And it's seamless. It's just like as a child, just doesn't think, wow, previously I wasn't thinking that I was. Now I'm thinking that I am. Doesn't happen like that. The child just starts thinking, I am. Right? At a certain point, the body facilitates that. And these guys, not exactly happens. It's not that you experience it. So, find yourself thinking, I'm a Gopi. So it has nothing to do with impersonalism. And unfortunately, persons who misunderstand like that, they really need a lesson in what impersonalism is and what Jiva Tattva is in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Otherwise, they may very well be thinking that I'm an individual person and that personality that I am is going to go to the Loka, and that's just not happening. Sorry.
Is it accurate to say then, or fair to say that as you've described Jiva Shakti, the substratum of these things, therefore it can go to Brahman because it's not inherent. So
yeah, you made that point when you asked the question.
Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, because if you take off the Maya Shakti, but you don't add Shuddha Bhakti, you just get Sattvic Bhakti that gives you what you want, you can merge with Brahman. So,
because how could you give up an inherent characteristic?
If the Jiva is inherently a person, then when you remove the illusion of Maya, then it should come out, right? There it is. But it doesn't come out unless you get Bhakti. So those who enter into Brahman, they have the potential, but they don't realize it because they don't have Bhakti. And so it's called like a spiritual suicide. They killed their potential. But, if you just remove the Maya as a person, they're like, okay, there you go, just remove the Maya. But we don't say that that's all that liberation in bhakti constitutes, just removing the Maya. Removing the Maya is one thing, that's a negative, and the other is the influence of bhakti, attaining bhakti. Therefore, there can be jnanis, even muktas with no bhakti. Why? All the Maya is removed, but they don't want to realize that they're persons. In full sense of the term, no one understands. Yeah.
So when you were beginning the explanation, you talked about the impartiality of Bhagavan and how the jivas are, in a sense, created equal, and they're all created equal. Of course, there's no created. They're not either, but there is that sense
Let me
of.
just say something. The Paramatma is equal, unbiased, right? So what are the jivas? They are like tiny partial Paramatmas. That's who's the manifesting thing. The one desire to become many. So what are the many going to be like? They're going to be like the one who desires to become many. They're all going to be equal.
So the individuality then, you're saying comes from karma, which means, so I'm just trying to play this out. So would it be the will that is inherent in the jiva? Is that what creates individuality?
Yeah. Well, not entirely, because each jiva is an individual. They're individual in that sense. Even if they don't have any will, or exercise any will, I should say. They're all equal. Here's one jiva, here's another jiva, here's another jiva. They're all individual jivas.
They're not all identical. I mean, it's.
Well, they are identical.
They are.
The tricky thing is they all are identical, but they all have will. So as soon as you have will, then they're not identical anymore.
Okay,
Because it's unpredictable what the will do.
okay.
So they have freedom.
You said they're agents of action, so they're going to do something.
Yeah. And that means they have will.
So then the question might come up that there must be some kind of partiality in there. If one person's will takes them in a negative way and another person's will takes them in a positive way.
No. As I said, you can have two people with free will, and that's the whole point of free will. For them two things, there's no reason to say each should choose the same thing, because such is the nature of will. It's unpredictable. Now, if you want to be a Madhva, then Madhva was not, he added something. He has said each jiva is different.
No.
That's not Gaudiya Vaishnavism.
Okay.
Therefore, Madhva's got tamasic jivas, sattvic jivas, rajasic jivas, only the sattvic jivas can get liberated. So he added something. And Baladev, who carries over from Madhva to Gaudiya Sampradaya in his commentary in Bhasha, he does not agree with that. The differences are only based on fate, means based only on karma. But the anadi karma is accepted by Madhva, but he wanted to add something a little more. So I don't see the necessity for that, and apparently neither does Jiva Goswami, because as I say, will means will, and it's free, so what you can't predict. So in that sense, each jiva is an individual unit of what? Will, and so it's different in that sense.
And will corresponds to the Ananda aspect in some way.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Well, Jiva Goswami in his Paramatma Sandarbha describes the jiva as it has about 10 or so different qualities. But it's the unit of Sad and Chit, Ananda, it's inactive, it's Kartika, inactive, is it Kartik, actor, doer, apprehender, what was the other one? Bhokritva, an enjoyer. These three things, it's an enjoyer, it's an actor, it's a knower. He's distinguishes them from it's Satchidananda. These are potentialities that you can't be a doer if there's no environment to do anything. You can't be a Bhokritva, an experiencer, if there's no environment to experience. You can't know anything if there's no environment, even though you're a unit of knowing capacity. So and that is very important. This word tatastha is very important. It's it can function on either side. The result will be similar, but very different at the same time. So, Jiva Tattva. Jiva stop with that. Anything else? It's the time for things to be made happen. Okay.
5-0.
So good. Malarkey, come on. Okay. So see where I'm on. Oh,
Swami Tripurari, Swami.